Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Stan Lee's DC. Today, we see a collaboration with Kevin Maguire, Carl Story, and Chris Chuckry that results in a new take on The Flash. So let's find out how this Speedster zips onto the stage, and if this comic makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads.
The cover has a headshot of the title character that's a little obstructed as she speeds by, leaving a rainbow trail in her wake, contrasting her eggshell-colored suit. It also features events from within the story, but in a way that matches the speedline effect. The colors are vibrant and really pop out at you. It's got a lot going for it. We start off in the lair of Andrea Zakara, a lovely but ruthless woman that wants something called the Cyclonic Chamber prepared for another test subject. Specifically, the one guy that points out all the other test subjects died.
No matter. They died for stealth. Is it not our duty to live and die if need be? For stealth.
But what about Guile? Guile does so much and asks so little. Why doesn't Guile get any respect? Or sacrificial henchmen?
Preferring to take his chances with the chamber rather than Zakara's right-hand goon Zorgal, he obeys and is placed inside a capsule that is either filling with funky energy or funky smoke, I'm not sure which. At first thinking he's been successfully sent back in time, the goon has instead simply become a cooked husk, not living long enough to make what would have been a lucrative mascot deal with Jack Link's beef jerky.
Wait a minute, this isn't the Cyclonic Chamber, it's Dr. Cannibal's human-sized deep fryer. This is why two villains can't share the same living space.
Enraged, Zakara threatens that one goon a day will die until the Seeker is found. And yet, after all this, I can still name a worse boss I had from when I worked retail. We go to a college campus to meet Mary Maxwell, surrounded by peers and defending her love of comic books, her heart's desire.
I'd give anything to live like a superheroine, to have adventure, thrills, excitement.
The gaudy costumes, being completely unaware of the ironically prophetic things I might say, being pointlessly retconned by idiots who have no business in the comic industry. Oh, but a girl can dream.
One of her friends, who looks like he's either taken too much or not enough medication, I'm not sure, tells her that a black car seems to be following her around. But Mary finds her life too boring for that to be true, what with having a workaholic scientist father. She returns home, joking to her dad about a flying saucer at school just to get his attention, but he's far too distracted by work. It's a genuinely fun scene that doesn't have too much dialogue, something that Stan was kinda prone to. Outside, Zorgal and another goon arrive, the latter tripping an alarm as they approach. With no time to explain, Papa Maxwell activates a security measure.
The lawn. It's lifting up on hydraulic lifters. He expected us. He was prepared.
This is where Stan makes up for the previous scene's lack of extraneous dialogue. As Zorgal busts through the plating to destroy the hydraulics bare-handed, Mary's dad orders her into the car without question, and she complies. Though, if you ask me, I think her two dialogue bubbles here would have made more sense if they were switched, or if the first were moved in between two of her dads. As it is, the flow is just kinda weird for me. The henchmen soon gain on them until the dull scientist engages rocket boosters to escape and tells his daughter she may soon wish for her boring life back.
And if you do, it counts as your birthday present.
We stop at the Church of Eternal Empowerment just long enough for Dominic Dark to preach on how power is all and that the master plan is progressing well, yada yada yada, and a new player is about to be on the board. Nice and vague, but it's also like a short commercial break, since we return to Mary and her dad in Australia. He can now talk about why they're in hiding. Stealth, which stands for Special Team of Espionage Agents Licensed to Target and Hit. Yeah, it's no SHIELD, either version of that acronym. Anyway, they hired him for their time travel research and gave him the codename Seeker.
But your specialty is DNA. What has that to do with time travel?
Did you already forget he put rocket boosters in the station wagon and hydraulics underneath the grass? As well as working on machines before you took off? Obviously he has other skills.
Wouldn't you know it, moving through time can be fatal to the human body. Seen here with someone's unexpected Human Torch impersonation during, I think, the Elizabethan era? I'm assuming because of the clothes. I could be wrong. Stealth figured Maxwell could alter Agent's DNA to adapt, which he was intrigued enough to attempt, but when he learned they were going to commit crimes and travel to the future for safety, he became less intrigued, only staying on because they threatened his daughter.
Have they given any consideration at all to how this affects the time stream? Taking loot from the past can affect the present, so for all they know, they're going to instigate a timeline where they never made a time machine in the first place. Or a planet ruled over by sentient ostriches that force them to work in the mines. Any mines will do.
They hear some commotion outside, and oh, this is delightfully ludicrous. Zorgal and two underlings are threatening information from locals in full beach bum attire. I'm sure their whole black trench coat look could have looked suspicious, but it's just so hilarious that these evil goons, one with apparent superhuman strength, went to such lengths to blend in. Anyway, they're pointed in the direction of the Maxwell's cottage and are hit with a smokescreen on approach. Zorgal busts right through the wall to find the pair escaping in the back on a crummy boat and figures he can catch up in his twin-turbo hydrofoil. But the Seeker spotted it earlier, I guess as they were leaving, because you can kind of see it in the background here, and he detonates a bomb he planted, leaving the strangely uninjured brute to swear revenge for his betrayal of Stealth. He's so mad, burning debris just bounces right off him.
Not that I'm condoning a heroes and protagonists should kill mindset, but wouldn't it have made more sense for him to wait a couple of seconds for Zorgal to be, in the boat when it exploded? I mean, he's trying to protect his daughter and get away from an evil syndicate. You'd think taking out their biggest powerhouse would set them back just a wee bit.
They escape into a green fog, which for some reason doesn't have the scientist as concerned as Mary. The dead green fish in the green water doesn't help, and neither, I wager, does falling in. She quickly swims back to the surface, though thinking it's like she was in another world, and is pulled back into the boat. At first worried that the green is sticking to her skin, it seems to fade as the fog lifts, and she gets some rest. Meanwhile, her dad is already planning several destinations before they head back to the States.
It looks bad now, I'll admit, but it will work out once Mary's dad parlays this experience into a new National Lampoon's Vacation movie. And naturally, Chevy Chase will want to play Zorgal.
They eventually arrive in LA, but ever since her unexpected swim, Mary has been severely drained of energy, hence why an obnoxious cabbie calls her Flash, ironically. They arrive at a rented home, with Papa Maxwell hoping Stealth is still looking for them overseas, while he tries to find a way out for his daughter and a cure for her unnatural lethargy. Yeah, I'm sure a bunch of those pep pills won't have nasty side effects, but nothing he's tried has worked. No medications, herbs, or potions.
Apparently, the DNA specialist did his residency at a witch doctor's office.
And I actually just noticed this putting the episode together. Energy Booster Gold. Man, that would probably be even more hilarious if it wasn't intentional. Anyway, Pops is not a pharmaceutical specialist. That's better? Well, he figures DNA might be the key, just as he sees a hummingbird flying. His idea continues even after it's killed by a cat, probably because that's the best way to harvest its DNA and inject a tiny amount of the resultant serum into Mary. It's untested, but hey, they've tried everything else, so why not? Seems medically sound to me. However, it ends up a full dose when stealth agents burst in and shoot her dad from behind. Oh, and his name was Philip, I guess. They decide to do away with Mary too, but one whirlwind later, she's holding their guns, and the house is a mess. Wow, Frizzy is not a good look for her. The goons don't know how, but now they're outside beside Zakara's car. Since they failed to get his notes, she kills them with some super weapon that flash fries their flesh right off the bone before she leaves.
I guess that was somehow easier than just telling them to go back inside and get the notes, but no, let's just kill him off and drive away. That works too.
I am the smart. I am the smart.
Phil figures it's too late to get him to a hospital and instead exposits on her daughter's newfound super speed. You know, the unexpected result of an untested serum. Turns out he's got everything figured in his last moments. She'll need to recharge after every use, which is why she's tired again after just using her powers. So fatigue will always be her weakness. She needs to keep it secret from everyone lest they want to abuse her abilities. And with that, Philip Maxwell passes away.
It's obvious how Stealth managed to find them. Who did we just see stealthily manage to target and hit a bird with the fastest moving wings? That's right, people. The Maxwells were betrayed by the cat!
Back at Stealth HQ, Zakara is given a demonstration by her goons, who think they've worked out the kinks in their time machine. They place a dog's toy on the ground, hand it to her, then send the dog back. When he returns, the pooch has his toy, which has vanished from their boss's hand. She's so excited she doesn't want to hear the warning that comes with it because she's just so smart.
I am too smart. I am too smart.
Mary has buried her father, vowing to use her powers in a way that would best honor him. She decides to train, and fortunately for her, a cinematographer strike has left a 20,000 square acre studio lot vacant. She goes for a quick jog that kind of wrecks some of the sets surrounding her. She runs so fast, not only does she not leave footprints, but she catches an arrow she fires before it hits its target, but soon she's exhausted. Then she remembers, oh yeah, when I was running earlier I saw myself when I started, so I basically time traveled.
If these are the kind of time travel rules they're going by, I don't know why we didn't see the future dog pick up that toy bone in Stealth's experiment. But frankly, it annoys me less than the clunkiness of Mary's training. It lessens the impact for her to go jogging, then do some bow and arrow training, and then think back, oh yeah, when I was jogging, I saw my past self. It would have made more sense to have the arrow training first, and then the jogging, so we see this weird time-space bend as it happens. But hey, maybe that's just me.
Zorgle is outfitted with a control band for the time travel device. At least I think so. The goon handing it to him ends his statement with a question mark, so even he doesn't seem sure. As a test, he's sent a week earlier, when 10 million was taken from an armored car. After making short work of the initial thieves, he successfully returns to the present with the money, much to Andrea's delight. Again, she silences a henchman trying to remind her of that mysterious warning because she's so happy Zorgle can steal whatever, whenever, without punishment. In gratitude for his loyalty, they go to her private cottage for an HR meeting? Fiscal earnings report? I can't tell, they're so ambiguous here. He's been wanting this night for quite a while, apparently, so Andrea takes his control device and goes to set an alarm for extra privacy. As he prepares to give her a night she'll never regret, she detonates explosives on the cliff above, destroying the cottage. She figures she doesn't need some stupid oaf anymore and decides to use the controller herself.
And that is exactly why I choose to be celibate. Not at all because of a combination of asocial tendencies, a dwindling faith in humanity, and a face that would nauseate the blind. I'm so alone.
Mary is in the Excelsior Motel, and hey, they got free cable. Now living her dream of being a superhero and wanting to avenge her father, she begins the development of her new identity with some fabric. And I think it's kind of funny how defensively she's clutching her purchases, like she expects someone to try and take it from her. And how hilarious would it be if Wayne Williams was in the background looking for replacement material for his suit? Anyway, with the addition of a motorcycle helmet, she recalls what the cab driver called her when she arrived in LA, and now is in full costume as the Flash.
Hundreds of bicycle handlebars gave their streamers for this costume.
Zakara compliments the two goons that I guess are responsible for her time travel device, and rewards them with a trapdoor to their deaths, because their warning was false. We'll have to take her word for it, but maybe it's also so they can't create another device. Meanwhile, in the rubble of her cottage, a hand emerges in classically dramatic fashion. Mary returns to the rented house in the valley in the hopes that she can find her dad's briefcase full of notes to gain a lead on Stealth. Sadly, they had the same idea, with 3 agents standing outside wearing the same thing, because, you know, Stealth. They spot her and figure that they're more than enough for one puny female, only for a burst of wind followed by the flash. Geez, people throw out a lot of paper in this neighborhood. Don't they believe in recycling? Bullets are too slow to be much of a bother, so she takes the goons out, grabs the briefcase, and dishes a dire warning to the Shadow Cartel. Weird thing, though, is that in the next panel, when one goon is reporting about the new superhero, minutes later, we still see a colorful trail of her helmet streamers.
Theory 1, artist mistake. Theory 2, the effect of those extensions tend to linger for a while. Theory 3, she decided to stick around and run laps around these losers, which is likely considering how delightfully playful she was when knocking them around. Though it may not be the most advisable tactic considering she's just getting used to her powers and is dangerously susceptible to fatigue.
Zorgal, and I'm not kidding, I almost typed Corgo, is stomping through the city and throwing motorists at police, all to get back at Zakara. He catches her in the middle of planning a temporal sightseeing trip, but before he can get any sweet, sweet revenge, she's quick to hug him and say she was about to travel back in time to save him. Weird, she says he went into a cave, but they were in a bedroom in her cottage. Either I missed something or editorial did, and my money's on the latter. Anyway, love-struck Zorgal buys it, and Andrea makes him her second-in-command. Meanwhile, she's going to scope out treasures throughout time they can steal later.
Initially, I would think it would make more sense to just steal them now since she's going anyway, but on the other hand, it makes sense, possibly more, to scope things out yourself for the impending larger raid. So this could potentially be the smartest move she's made so far. Potentially.
Mary arrives at a vacant lot that's supposed to be Stealth HQ and is rather puzzled, until she falls through a trapdoor and it hits her that the compound is underground. She's met by several gunmen and Zorgal, who decide a bullet would be too fast, and he wants to do it personally, after Lady Zakara returns. I would call that plot convenience, but he's stupid enough to believe the woman that tried to kill him just because she's hot. They throw her into a room, no restraints or anything, and bolt it shut. Two guards discuss a plan to hold the mayor and others at City Hall for a $50 million ransom, maybe killing a few to show they're serious. 120-pound Mary isn't busting down that door, so she uses another route. She generates a gust of wind in a room without air conditioning. It rouses enough suspicion for the goons to open the door so the Flash can speed out. When encountering even more thugs, she knocks some aside, ties some up with a fire hose, one saying, "She's escaping!" as if they know the Speedster is Mary, and then she's face to face with Zorgal. I kind of dig how nonchalant she is at the prospect of this brute in her way, but after several hits to the head, he's unfazed, and she's exhausted.
Just like Dad said I'd be.
Yeah, you said that a few times already. Not sure why she's saying it again. Zorgal proceeds to lift up an electronic condenser, which weighs 5 tons?
See this? That was Paul Anderson, professional weightlifter. He lifted just over 3 tons, a world record that, as far as I know, remains to this day. So, unless our henchman here is exaggerating for intimidation's sake, Zorgal's a superhuman and it's never really addressed.
However, he is still a lumbering brute, and Flash is still nimble enough to avoid being crushed. She counters with mop water, electrocuting her foe, quite likely to death, given her casual line about not having to spend his life in jail. That's when Zakara returns conveniently in that one particular spot, confident of her travel through time, steal stuff, and never get caught plan, only for that mysterious warning to come back and bite her. She begins rapidly aging until she's quite elderly and dies on top of her minion, saying all her efforts were for nothing, and possibly not just because she can't take advantage of senior citizens' discounts.
It's not a total waste. This'll probably make a great movie someday.
A peppy attitude is one thing, but if she's this blasé about witnessing 2 people die in the span of a couple of seconds, one of whom she never met and hardly ever heard about, I've got some serious concerns about Mary's mental health at this point.
When I do it, it's cute!
Later, she's walking alone on the street, telling herself how her altered DNA prevents her from the kind of time travel backlash Zakara experienced by going too far too fast. But with this power she previously longed for, she vows to fight evil however it manifests. Just as she passes an unassuming church, and the ordinary-looking girl piques the interest of one Dominic Dark. But there's something about her. She will bear watching.
In the end, the evil mastermind's comeuppance wouldn't arrive at the hand of mighty superheroes, but getting arrested for being a peeping Tom.
On the Street sees the return of Joe, editor-in-chief of Fly-By-Night Comics, and its relocation to Los Angeles. Weird, one of the reasons for the move was fear of reprisal from Superman, yet they moved to the very city he was discovered in. Another was bankruptcy, when they replaced Supes with a new character, Ben Steele, with his bear Hans, and I just can't resist clever wordplay like that. Depressed that DC beat him to signing contracts with 3 other superheroes, and that his late uncle was right about his uselessness, Joe doesn't see he's walking right in the path of a high-speed chase until it's too late. Joe!
Midge, no. Midge. Just let Darwinism take its course. It's interfering in it that lets someone like Dan Didio stay in charge.
Or it would have been too late had a colorful blur not stepped in, saving Joe, causing some comical after effects, and stopping the robbers. Upon hearing it was the work of a heroine calling herself the Flash, Joe has an idea. He runs back to his offices, and contrary to the secretary's protestations, he digs through copies of the mature imprint Scuzzbucket, incorporated under the name of his 2-year-old grandniece. Alongside titles such as Headlight, Chest Symbols, and Bad Girl, he's also been printing Flash comics for the past year, though this version involves a guy opening his trench coat, so we'll just leave it at that unfortunate implication. He already owns the name, and since the superhero is a public figure, her likeness can be used for free when they repurpose the title's content. Do you know what this means?
Yeah, I can sue her!
And now I feel less sympathetic about his uncle's fat nothing of a nephew remark. At least Joe didn't use the word reboot.
Jump ahead 1 year, and no indication that lawsuit ever went through, and Fly-By-Night Comics has moved to a new building, once again hitting the 1 billion mark with their retooled Flash comics. And again, Joe wants to rub his success in the face of his dead uncle.
I'm #1!
Remember your urologist appointment at 3. Yeah, this story has a few sly jokes like that. Someone asks about the possibility of reprisal, like with Superman. Then a colorful whirlwind overtakes the office, just long enough to frazzle everyone inside and leave a tidy little present on Joe's desk. It's not a threat or a bomb, but a copy of the only James Bond comic Joe was missing from his collection. Flash apparently called Midge to find out what he needed, which was awful nice of her. There's also a letter, with the heroine noting her excitement at having her own comic book, and hopes they have success, as well as wishing they donate a fair portion of their profits to the Dr. Philip Maxwell Memorial Foundation for DNA research. She also notes a coloring error in one issue, so maybe they'll give her a no prize, too. The segment ends with Joe looking out the window, telling Midge to cut a check for the foundation to the sum of $5 million. In a flash!
And that was Stan Lee's take on The Flash. If nothing else, it was absolutely a fun read.
There are some pacing issues, dialogue telling what the art is showing, and Zor-El's feats of strength aren't attributed to anything magical or super, but it seems they ought to be. Andrea Zakara, the first woman antagonist, was kind of a moron. She's so fixated on time travel she doesn't bother listening to the side effects, and kills her own men because she thought they were bunkum. And betraying Zor-El didn't seem to make much sense either. He never indicated he was going to betray her. So I guess it just goes to show how greedy and conniving she was. Still not that bright, though.
S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Mary was an upbeat, enjoyable character, though, as I said, she seemed surprisingly at ease when people died around her, even going so far as cracking jokes. I know they were evil, but come on.
At first I thought the green mist Mary encountered was the green element from Superman's ship, but he landed near California and the Maxwells were off the coast of Australia. No way did they travel across an ocean on speedboat. The only other idea is if, over time, the element moved across the water, but it's never really explained. It makes sense to tie it together, and maybe that other world remark of hers would have been more tongue-in-cheek, and act as a catalyst for how hummingbird DNA gave her super speed. We don't get the fullest extent of her powers or how long she needs to recharge, so it's fortunate that Zakara's threat kind of took care of itself. Her bodysuit is kind of bland on the whole, but the streamers do make up for that, perhaps even providing distraction for anyone trying to target her while she's running. Though if she's low on energy, they can easily be used against her. On the Street was another fun one, though if I had a particular criticism, it would be that the art style isn't really up my alley.
Perhaps we'll get some elaboration next week as we see our re-envisioned 5 join together as one. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.